Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Alexandra. Today I'm going to be speaking about Pluto, and I'll be speaking in general about Plutonian aspects: Sun Pluto, Moon Pluto, Venus Pluto, Mercury Pluto. These aspects are very important in our birth chart, and even if we don't have any personal planets making aspects to Pluto, Pluto remains a very fundamental part of our lives. Pluto rules transformation. Pluto also rules the darkness within us, the things we keep buried, and the pain we keep hidden, our guilt, things like jealousy, envy, things that deal with shared resources, how we feel about others, how others feel about us, how we navigate power in relationships, how we navigate power in the world, how we express power in our environment, how we express power towards other people. So it's extremely important to understand Pluto in regards to its symbolism, and in regards to your life, and in regards to yourself. There are many times in life maybe we feel stuck in a rut. We feel the need for change. Now when we feel the need for change, that is Pluto doing its work as well, because Pluto rules transformation. It rules birth and rebirth, birth, death, rebirth, and rising out of the ashes. So we usually seek change sometimes, or sometimes change comes and finds us. No matter how much we try to resist it, it still stays. And that is the magic of Pluto. Sometimes it comes and it causes upheaval, it causes changes that we were not really planning for. And these changes on the outside, whether it's a change in career, a change in our environment, a change in our relationship, this change causes an inner transformation. It causes a part of us to die and another one to be reborn. The part of us that dies most of the time is a part of us that is no longer in line with the next part of our journey, and that the path that is reborn is now the path that now will be more in line and more beneficial in regard to the direction we are moving toward. Now Pluto is really strange, because you can have two people, both of them may have a strong Pluto in their chart. Maybe Pluto is aspecting so many planets in their chart, or it's conjunct one of the three main, the ascendant, the sun, the moon. It could be forming an aspect to them, or in a prominent position, maybe in a cardinal house. And you'd find one person is very in touch with their power, and one person constantly gives their power away. What do I mean? You might find one person who's very in charge of their life, and it's easier for them to reach milestones, or they're more in touch with that part of them which they're not scared to go after their ambitions. They're not scared to go after the things they want, after the things that make them happy. They're not scared to be in positions of authority and positions of power. Then you'll find another person who is scared, who does not go after what they want, who is not in touch with their power, who maybe always gives their power away to some people. They always see their power, they always see power as in another person. The power, they never see power as a part of them. What do I mean? I mean, these are people who sometimes attract domineering, controlling people. I don't want to say attract, but rather when they're around those people, they don't know how to impose their own power, and so those people generally will control them. What I mean is, like, you see, two people may encounter maybe a domineering or narcissistic individual, but how they will interact with that person is different. So for someone who's aware of their power and their boundaries, it will be hard for this kind of controlling person to really control them, or to drive them crazy. But for another person, it might be easier for that narcissistic or controlling freak to have their way with them in regard to telling them what to do or controlling their emotions. And why does this happen? Sometimes some people give away their power because of how they were raised. Maybe they were raised in an environment where they were not allowed to be themselves. They're not allowed any effort for them to try and be themselves was met with a lot of put downs, or it was discouraged, or they were humiliated from it. So they learned to give their power away. So because they constantly were in an environment where other people thought they had the right to tell them what to do or how to be or how to behave, they grow to expect another person to tell them how to be or who to be. So that is giving their power away. It would take a lot of introspection for them to grow on their own and realize they're the ones to give themselves that permission to be who they want to be and to behave how they want to behave. But when you give your power away, you wait for direction. You wait to be told whether what you're doing is right or wrong, whether what you're doing is okay, whether, even if what you're doing makes you feel happy, you still rely on another person to give you the validation. So Pluto, basically, it's not a planet that works on its own. As you may have observed when I was talking about giving your power away, I mentioned validation. I mentioned boundaries. I mentioned permission. Permission, that is in line with something like Saturn, because permission deals with boundaries. So Pluto doesn't work on its own. As much as it's all about power and learning your internal power, it works with other planets. Validation. The validation is in regard to Venus, how we receive love and affection, and what kind of love and affection we expect. So to really develop the Pluto, your internal power, you have to work with the other areas of your life. How you receive and give love, Venus. What boundaries you have, Saturn. What rules do you live by, Saturn? Or do you expect other people to make the rules for you? That's also Saturn, you see. So if you keep finding yourselves in situations where you feel you are not in control or someone else is controlling you, you have to spend some time in introspection to understand what your boundaries are and which boundaries, or rather the lack of boundaries, in which areas of your life do you give your power away because you haven't made the rules as to what should be right, what behavior you should expect from others, and what behavior you do not want from other people. So it's boundaries. It's also learning to validate yourself. That is Venus. That's learning self-love. That is learning how you take care of yourself. That is learning what kind of care you expect from others. Okay. So another way this Pluto aspect could work is somebody who never sees the bad in them. As human beings, we are both good and bad. We exist on a spectrum. We are both good and bad. There's no one who's only good or only bad. So, in regard to this, people who haven't really processed the symbolism of Pluto in their chart, what happens is they may see, so you see, the Pluto also involves accepting the bad side of your nature, accepting those bad bits inside of you, whatever they are. People who haven't well integrated Pluto, they see themselves as good and others are the bad ones. Others are the jealous ones always. Others are the mean ones. Others are every bad trait is projected onto other people and the good traits are for them, you see. So that's problematic because they can cause a lot of harm to other people without ever acknowledging what they've done, because they always project the bad side of their nature onto other people and they never own it. Okay, they never see themselves as any of those bad bits. And this can also be in line with people who have also the toxic positivity, in that they never want to be sad, they never want to be angry. So even when those emotions come, they never acknowledge those emotions. They always bury them. Burying is also tied to Pluto. So this is another manifestation of this Pluto, is burying all your negative bits. All the parts you've labeled negative, you bury. if you if you think sadness is bad, you're always burying the sadness, you're always burying the anger, until one day maybe it comes out in another form. Sometimes the anger, the sadness comes out in an addiction, or it comes out in terms of poor self-care, because all that stuff is inside, and if it's buried in the subconscious, it controls you unknowingly. You may become the person who so you may be, there are people who are like, they'll talk about how everyone is always angry at them, yet they never notice the anger they ever show towards other people, because maybe they have buried their anger so much, and they don't notice that the anger comes out passive aggressively, and other people read that and react. But now other people are the bad ones for having the anger. You don't see your anger because maybe it doesn't come out in an explosive fashion. It comes out in a passive aggressive manner. It comes out maybe with silent treatment. It comes out, maybe you just do some things which, rub people the wrong way. Sometimes you don't notice, sometimes you do. Sometimes you notice, but you're like, as long as I didn't have an outburst, that wasn't bad. Some people reason like that. So Pluto is very much about owning your negative, even the parts of you that you consider negative. It's about owning that so that you don't bury it. Because when you bury it, that's when you lose control of your power. That's when you lose your power, because you leave that part to the subconscious and it controls you, instead of being conscious of all this debris and being in charge of it. Pluto is a beautiful thing. A lot of healers are in real contact with their Pluto. They're in contact with all that. Like, they understand what pain is because they've been there and they've had to deal with pain, and they found ways of transforming the pain, or ways of expressing the pain in healthy fashion. So a lot of healers have a strong Pluto as well, because these are people who they face their darkness often. They face all those buried things often, but they always find a way to transform it or to release it. So healers are some of the people with a strong Pluto, very in touch with their Pluto. The other side of this is someone taking the entirely bad side of Pluto, and when they have all those emotions they don't know how to deal with, low self-worth, guilt, shame, anger, they turn that around onto the world and they hurt the people around them. This can come in terms in the form of criminals, or even it could just come in the form of normal people in a relationship who they always are suspicious of the person they're dating. They're always suspicious of their friend, of their relative. So they always feel like they have to be on the offense. They're always looking for evidence that their partner has done them wrong, that their friend has done them wrong. They're always preparing for the worst. They do certain things so that they can catch the partner or the friend doing something wrong. But actually sometimes their suspicious behavior is what causes problems to magnify. They try to always put their family members, their partners, their friends under a series of tests. They always need to be proven to that they are loved or that they are cared for, because they have taken a stance that the world is extremely dangerous, which could be true. The world is dangerous, but also it's safe at the same time. Like, the world is a combination of things. But when you are from this frame of mindset where you always have to you're always hyper vigilant and you always have to protect yourself, it's a very exhausting frame of mind to be in. Can you imagine? That's a very dysregulated way to live. If you're always tense that something bad is about to happen and that you have to protect yourself, and because now sometimes being suspicious of people is actually what makes them do the wrong stuff. You see this from parents who are always suspicious of their children, even if their child has never done anything to make them suspicious. Eventually, the child starts feeling like they are not loved enough, or they start feeling unworthy or something, and some of them rebel because they're rebelling against this control, because it's a form of control. It's like I'm suspecting you before you do it, that you may think, so that you can think I already know what you can possibly do. So it's a way of manipulation to show like I'm in control. But some parents don't see this. Some people in their relationships don't see this kind of control, where it's like they're trying to show their partner or their friend that, I know how you're thinking, I know what you can possibly do. And some people rebel against that kind of control. So some kids become rebellious and harder to control, hence confirming that the suspicious person's suspicions. So the suspicions are confirmed because your behavior drove the other person to the edge, and they reacted, and now you're like, yeah, you see, now I was right. So some Plutonian people, some people with very strong Pluto aspects, can have this situation where they do things and they don't see that they are the origin of the problems in their life. Like, they are the ones who instigate them, but they don't see it. They have this confirmation bias. Yes, you see, I knew it, but you're the one who caused it by your suspicions and by your controlling tendencies. So that's something to really be aware of. Problem with Pluto, and this is another version of how Pluto can manifest, is swinging between both sides of being controlling and being controlled. Being controlling and being controlled. What do I mean by this? This is a person with poor boundaries, often from how they were raised in their childhood, the people who are in their environment, where they were controlled so much by the people around them, constantly controlled. Anytime they showed their true self, they had to be a certain way to be loved, or rather to avoid danger. So for some people, it's just about avoiding danger. Anytime they were themselves, they received some kind of punishment, whether physical violence or emotional abuse or verbal abuse. So they learn to take on the rules of the other person as their own to define their identity. They shrink themselves to fit such that they do not get any harm onto them. They do not get harmed in any way. So what happens is they have poor boundaries, and they keep, it's possible they keep meeting people who keep continuously controlling them as well, because that's the dynamic they're used to. They're used to a dynamic where it's like, how do you want me to be? Who do you want me to be? How should I behave? They're used to a dynamic where they have to feel out the other person's rules and then adapt to them. They're not used to simply living by their rules or living in a balanced way, such that a relationship is all about balance, about respecting one another, about valuing one another. They're used to being the one to do all the work to make the other person feel safe, so that they don't put themselves in any danger. They're in a state of avoiding danger. They're in a state of hypervigilance. And after a while of living like this, they may realize, oh my God, why do I keep attracting these controlling people? Or what is going on? Something is off. Then, after realizing that, they may develop now boundaries, so that they can have healthier relationships, so that they can avoid being around these kinds of bullies or narcissists, etc. So they develop boundaries, find themselves, and they know who they are now. But sometimes there's a part of them that is used to the safety of letting another person make the rules. So some of them are missing that safety, because sometimes after now being the one to make the rules, and now they're themselves more, they may feel happy to be that way, but there is a part of them that may still miss that safety net of letting another person take charge, and that is what may take them back to another toxic relationship where again they surrender their boundaries. So if they don't recognize what they're truly looking for is safety and maybe love and validation, they may keep seesawing between being in charge of themselves, being fully expressive, being who they are, and then again giving themselves away and giving breaking their original boundaries and allowing another person to take charge again, and then feeling controlled again, and then going back to, it's so with these aspects of Pluto, a key important factor is learning self-love. That's one thing, because there's this, some people with Sun Pluto aspects never learned to love themselves, because they're always in a state of preventing danger, of shrinking themselves. They're always trying to take on the mind of the other person. Oh, what is the current environment right now? What is this person thinking? Because they don't want to do anything that will cause any violence. So they're like, yeah, what is this person thinking? Are they about to get angry? Are they about to break something? Are they about to turn violent? So they are not present in themselves enough. I think some of them also experience dissociation, though dissociation is an element of Neptune more so, but as we know, all these planets are kind of connected. These significations are kind of connected. So really learning to be present in themselves, to be centered, maybe to find a hobby that gives them a sense of centering, so that they don't keep losing themselves. You also need to either find a community that makes you feel safe, friends that make you feel safe, and this takes time, because so much time in your development may have been spent trying to avoid danger, but it's such that you don't even know what real safety looks like. You don't know what real safety looks like. You just know how to avoid danger. The kind of safety you know is safety that comes from pleasing the other person. Okay, now they are calm. So you have to take time to really understand what true safety means, and that's trial and error. That's why this can be really a wound, because you might keep getting re-injured as you learn what true boundaries are. Because most people learn true boundaries through the normal process of growing up. When people wrong them, they show it, and then when they show it, they make a boundary, and it continuously goes like that. So they know what the boundaries are and what people shouldn't do to them and what is allowed. Learning what safety means to you will take a lot of trial and error, because there's this thing which many times people are drawn to other people who have similar patterns, like with the people who have poor boundaries can also attract other people with poor boundaries, so that they don't know what, like, if let's say you do not have good boundaries, and then you have a friend who also keeps getting into relationships and friendships that also are evident that they have poor boundaries, like the people, she doesn't get people who treat them well, you see. So like the problem with these astrological aspects is many times, not everyone, but some people tend to attract similar people to them. So it could be harder for those people to break out of some of these generational curses, because of that thing of attracting sameness. There's safety they feel safe in sameness. They may feel safe with people who just have poor boundaries just like them, people who will probably also attract horrible relationships just like them. So the key here is to expose yourself to as many different kinds of people as possible and see how different people live, so that you can break out of that shell where you keep attracting the same things, which keep reinforcing the same patterns within yourself. Okay, so guys, today I've talked a lot about Pluto, but this won't be the only upload I'll do, because Pluto is like a very long topic. It's multifaceted, and yeah, there's just a lot going on. But if you got something from this, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna make another video on Pluto. So bye, thanks for stopping by.